In today's video we're going to be jumping straight back into some more 33 Immortals, and this time I'll be covering the relics and which ones you should really aim to be trying to get hold of. Relics in this game can make the difference between a good run and a bad run, and some of the most powerful ones can really help you to get a completely crazy build. So without further ado, let's go over the best relics that you should be looking out for in 33 Immortals. Kicking it off, we're going to go over into the epic list, and the first one that you should grab anytime it comes up, is going to be Lover's Skull. This epic is one of the very best relics that you can pick up in the game. 40% extra damage is no joke, and it's absolutely massive on everything you do. You're light, you're heavy, whatever you're doing, this is going to give you 40% extra damage on your build, and honestly stacking this up with a lot of other things can make some crazy damage numbers, especially if you're going to a crit build as well. For that reason, Lover's Skull is definitely something you should pick up anytime you see it. Next up, and we have Preserved Heretic Head. Bit of a tongue twister, but this one is amazing again because it's just going to be extra free damage. Your carb strikes now have a 33% chance to trigger missiles. This is quite a cool thing to see. You shoot at little missiles either side when you're hitting enemies, and I'd probably say on some of the faster builds, such as probably bow more than any other, these can be absolutely cracked in the right setup and will generate a lot of extra damage with whatever you're doing. Usually, most times on a lot of builds you'll be spamming your light attacks, and these will just be coming out left, right and centre very often, as long as you've got a fast attack build going. Over to the Melted Bishop Ring, and this one is great in a lot of situations. Solo, this is going to be absolutely worthless, so make sure you're sticking with your teammates. As long as you're with over 2 of them, this is definitely going to come in handy at all times. You're going to gain 8% damage per player that's near you, and it's up to a maximum of 120%. This is crazy on things such as the Lucifer boss, or anytime you're stacking on those elite enemies. Often you'll find there's 2 or 3 people right by you, so this works out really well for around about a 24% boost at a lot of times. However, like I said, stacking up on those bosses can make this significantly more powerful, and especially if you're running Inferno, this one's definitely one I'd take all the time, just to make Lucifer that much faster. Yawning Maw of Truth, this one is a bit more of a niche one, but can work out absolutely fantastic, as all your attacks now inflict all status effects that you can inflict upon your build. Basically, as standard, as far as I'm aware, I think everyone can kind of inflict your stun status. I haven't spec'd much into the staff so far, so let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I know all of the others can, and this will just help you to get more of that effect because it'll be on everything you're doing. If, however, you're trying to put other things into your build, for example things that mark, weaken, or exploit your enemy, then this is going to become even more powerful, and for anyone who wants to try out a status build, this is something you should definitely invest in if you're able to grab it or reroll to it. Over to the rare relics, and the first one we're going to be going over is going to give us massive flat damage, and that's going to be the Cocytus Abiding Ice. This one is going to give you 25% additional damage, and like I said, anytime you can get that flat rate, it's definitely worth investing in because it's just going to make everything much faster overall, and you'll see those nice juicy numbers. Then over to one of my top 3 picks in the entire game, and we've got the Sacrosanct Vernicle. This rare relic is amazing as your light attacks are now going to inflict exposed. After a lot of mucking around and playing with things, I can't get the exact number right, but it's somewhere between 40 to 50% extra damage increase whenever you inflict exposed, and stacking this on top of all of your other things you've got going in your build can really help you and a lot of your other teammates out massively. Remember, this is going to inflict it for everyone, so they're all going to get that additional damage, and it can really help to take down those elites and bosses fast. These next 2 are going to be absolutely amazing. Depending on your playstyle, you're probably going to want to pick one or the other up. Blessed Chains is going to be your probably most likely pick because your light attacks deal 50% extra damage, but your heavy attacks now deal 50% less damage. This one is just easy for anyone who's spamming light attacks. It's going to really boost your damage up significantly. Bow builds, things such as that, this is absolutely insane. As well as that, Ultra-S Dual Bone, the complete vice versa to this. Your heavy attacks deal 50% damage, so anyone who's going for a heavy attack build will want to try and focus on this one instead, and then get a negative to their light attacks. Next, we have a bit of a trifecta, but I love all of these, and they work for every single class, so it works out perfect no matter what build or soul you're going for. There's definitely something catered for everyone here. With the Seraphic Tear, half of your vitality is now going to also count as your empathy. Then with Burnt Cincture, this one's probably the most common pick because half of your attack is going to be classed as your vitality, which is really going to help out with your survivability. Then Celestial Green Feather is going to be for anyone who has an empathy build but also wants a little bit of extra attack, as half of your empathy is now going to be classed as your attack. Over to the number 1 top pick of every single run whenever this comes up, Lamp of Purifying Flames. Make sure you grab this as it's just going to help you to keep hold of all of those bones. You're not going to need to heal yourself because now you're going to generate 1% of health every 5 seconds. This is ridiculously good on every single build, but obviously works best on any builds that are focusing more on vitality, as it's going to generate more health overall. So instead of regenerating maybe 2 or 3 every 5 seconds, you may be doing 4, 5, 6 or even more if you're lucky. For absolutely anyone that loves their co-op attack and seeing it very often, this thing is just a must, as the Muddy Apostle medal is pretty damn busted. This is going to mean your co-op strikes have 25% chance to generate co-op player orbs, and you'll be able to get your co-op back very fast with this alone. However, working hand in hand with a few things as well, such as the one we'll be covering later, which is the Bloodstained Stole, which generates your powers 100% faster as it is, this can be ridiculously good. Then again, why not stack on top of that one of your perks, Astute Erudite, and you'll be able to spam your co-op move over and over. This is great for stacking shields or nuking bosses before they've even known what hits them. Over to the Holy Book of Hymns, this one is just amazing for anyone who wants to be stacking that crit damage. Personally, as a dagger build, I try to take this whenever I can, especially if it's going to be on one of those buses that I know we're stacking up on, such as Lucifer again, as your critical hits are going to deal 25% damage per nearby player, up to 250%. This will see you probably racking up the most damage you can possibly get on a build if you've got a 10-man stack going, and it's a lot of fun to see those big juicy numbers when you start adding it up with all of your attack boosts as well. However, singly, if you're going off on your own and just tackling enemies, this is not going to do anything whatsoever, so make sure you stay in a group with this in order to make it more effective. Over to another one of my personal favourites, and this time it's going to be the Tusk of Cierretto. This is going to mean you deal 125% damage to stunned, weak, exposed or mark monsters. Let's face it, most of the time something is going to be under one of those conditions as long as you're sticking with people, and 125% extra damage is absolutely massive, more so than pretty much any other ones you can get in the game other than the 200% on the stunned version. Remember, also works hand in hand with a lot of other things, so if you can get this one we mentioned earlier in your build, the Sacrosanct Vernicle, this is going to give you almost 50% extra damage already because they're going to be exposed, and then that's going to add on top of that the 125, making you see some crazy numbers and dish out a lot of damage fast and easy. Lastly, going on to our common relics, and the first one we're going to start off with, nice and easy damage increase, is going to be the Thorns of Martyr, where you're going to deal 15% extra damage. If you're going to be picking up some common relics, you can do a lot worse than this one right here. Also, similar to the counterparts we saw earlier, but this time with absolutely no downside, you've got the Reliquary Hand that will increase your heavy attack damage by 20%, or the Cruel Harpy Feather that will give your light attack damage 20% extra damage. A lot of people, like I said, will be spamming light attacks, so Cruel Harpy Feather is definitely one you might want to pick up in quite a few builds. Next up, and one that I pick up pretty much whenever I can, and that's going to be your Cracked Rosary Beads. These things are pretty insane. On tougher enemies and bosses, you're definitely going to want to keep hold of these, as it's really going to help you to rack up your co-op strike, because now your co-op strikes take 3 seconds longer to reset. If you're trying to get your co-op counter as high as possible, which again will help towards your overall rating at the end of a run, allowing you to get more Stardust. Of course, it's also going to mean you get much more crit, if not 100% crit rate on you, so make sure you keep attacking the same enemies as other people and you'll really start to see how effective this is. Another one, however, that can help you with crit strike is going to be your Clerical Silis. You gain 4% chance to inflict a critical hit per co-strike level. This can see you doing critical hits much faster, and overall it's just a solid pick for anyone who wants to inflict some crit damage a little bit faster. Over to an absolutely must-have pick. Whenever you see this, you're probably going to want to pick it up on almost all builds, maybe not everyone, but almost all of them, as that's going to be your Blood-Stained Stole. Your co-op power now generates 100% faster, and it just means you're going to be able to help out everyone in your team by either dishing out more damage, giving them some shields, giving them some bones, or slowing down those enemies with your staff. Now for my last picks, I'm going to pick 2 that I think have gone completely underneath the radar and are great in certain playstyles, not all, not saying that everyone should pick these up, but certain builds can definitely be effective with these. The first one is going to be the Dirty Votive Candle, as now it means your co-op powers you participate in are now 2% more powerful per point of empathy. This can work out crazy in a support build, so if you're playing as someone who's going to be stacking up that empathy, then you're going to want to make sure you're participating in as many co-op skills as possible to really help the team out. As far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this will mean you get more shield when you're activating those bubble shields, and then a few of the others will either spam a little bit extra damage, so for example the bow may shoot extra arrows, or it might mean it lasts longer. Again, like I said, I haven't fully tested this one out, but for anyone who's going for a support build, I think this one may well be one that's going underneath the radar because not a lot of people are stacking up empathy at the moment. And last but definitely not least is going to be the Fruit of the Insatiable. This thing is just amazing, absolutely amazing, but not in every single build. If you're going pure attack, as pure high damage as possible, say for example you were going with a dagger build and you're going low health, very glass cannon, this is not going to help you in the slightest. But for certain playstyles and certain builds, I'd say the one that comes to mind most is definitely going to be the Greatsword, because they already get investment into their vitality from their sword effect, and stacking vitality on top of that can make this pretty amazing. That way I believe you'll be able to get around about 30 vitality. Even if you manage to only hit 20 vitality, which is very easy, they'll be able to get probably around about 30 or more if they really try, and this is going to help them to get at least 100 extra points of health, which can make them very tanky and survivable. They like being in the mix, doing a lot of revenge damage, and this thing can be really cool to see on them. Also, it works hand in hand again with the Lamp of Purifying Flames in order to regen your health, and overall with these two and a nice amount of your stats in vitality, you can then focus everything else on damage and pretty much not have to worry about falling over in any of your runs whatsoever. Right, that's pretty much all of the best relics that I've found so far. Let me know in the comments if you think there's anything I've missed off, but hopefully this helped a few of you guys and girls out. As always, there'll be a lot more content away from me. For now, take care. I'll see you on next day.